Jujutsu Kaisen has had an elephant in the room for over 100 chapters at this point, and if you clicked on this video, I'm sure you already know what it is. Where are Todo and Nobara? How have we gotten nothing regarding these two in years? It's kinda crazy considering their importance to the story. And it's also something that I've wanted to put my 2 cents into for a while now. So that's exactly what I'll be doing in this video. We'll first start with a brief recap as it's been a long time since they've appeared, and then we'll go over reasons as to why they should and why they shouldn't come back, and then I'll just give my opinion overall. With that said, let's get into it. So I'll start with the refresher, but keep it brief as I'm sure that most of y'all saw the anime recently. So yeah, when we last saw Nobara, she'd be in a battle against Mahito's clone, striking him with her straw doll technique in order to do direct damage to the soul. As her and Yuji would overwhelm him from different fronts, he'd eventually give up on fighting her directly and run toward his original body to essentially swap roles with the original body and land a direct blow with idol transfiguration. After this, Nobara would get a flashback chapter and it would conclude with her face being transfigured and exploded due to Mahito's technique. Her story seems to have concluded with Nita saying that he used his cursed technique to stop Yuji and Nobara's wound from getting any worse, but this does not heal them. Even then, she has no pulse and is not breathing, but not much time has passed since she received those injuries, so she still has a chance to live. Despite that, do not get your hopes up. The last time we get any news at all of Nobara's status is during Megumi and Yuji's first reunion after the events of the Shibuya incident, where Megumi implies that things with her are at the very least not going well. Still, it's open-ended, but leaning toward her being gone. With Nobara covered, let's do a quick recap on Todo. Todo, on the other hand, seems to be way more open-ended and hopeful. As Yuji and Todo fight Mahito, he lands a ton of heavy hits on Todo and even transfigures his arm, retiring him from the battle as Yuji vows to take over from there and finish the job. And as the battle reaches its climax, Yuji attempts to land his final black flash on Mahito. And this is when Todo reappears one last time to fake him out by making him believe his boogie woogie was active and going to swap Yuji to make him appear behind Mahito. But as nothing happens after Mahito turns around to counter this, Todo reveals that his curse technique is dead, allowing Yuji to land his one last final free hit. The battle just ends with Todo never being seen again, apparently disappearing from the series as a whole, and with those recaps settled, now we can talk about the main topics. This is where I'm just going to go over arguments for why they can come back, and then arguments on the other side as to why they can't come back, and explain both. I want y'all to drop in and share some arguments as to why either one or the other or even both can or cannot come back, just in case I missed something. But anyway, let's get into it. So starting with the reasons they could make a return to the series and even this current fight, is first and foremost, it's been way too long since we've gotten any kind of confirmation in the story regarding either one of their fates or even heard anything about them. In a typical story, if they were dead, we would know after 2 or 3 years of them being gone from the story. But Jujutsu Kaisen is not a typical story. Gege will always leave details more vague than they need to be in this story, that is no secret. However, he leaves them very vague because most of the time, he plans on expanding or clarifying these details later on in the story. This isn't to say that either Todo or Nobara are alive or dead, but I do believe that Gege handling them in this manner deconfirms any absolute answers and genuinely gives them a chance to return to the story. He also tends to write a complete send-off for major characters, and this leans more toward Todo's favor instead of Nobara's, because Todo never really got some sort of send-off or goodbye or anything like that. We last saw Todo in like 1/8 of a page where he didn't even get a flashback. Nobara, on the other hand, yes, she got a whole flashback or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean she's gone either. Yes, almost all very important characters have a flashback or send-off scene when they pass away, but that doesn't mean that these scenes are exclusive to moments of death in Jujutsu Kaisen, as characters like Kusakabe and Nanami have had their self-reflective flashbacks and came out of them on the other side. Mahito also just serves to push every character he faces to reflect upon their own purpose and character as human beings by bringing them as close to death as possible. So in my opinion, I don't really consider Nobara's flashback to answer whether she's gone or not. Also, the story just wouldn't dangle her status in our face later on if the flashback served as a conclusion. On the side of Todo and Nobara making a return, I think it's possible. I totally would not count it out, especially since again, we're reading Jujutsu Kaisen. Gege be bringing stuff up that we thought we left behind over 100 chapters ago every other week. So if they were to come back right now, what would they even do? First, Sukuna is insanely weakened as of now. It's to a point where LaRue was pulling off crazy plays in the battle. It'd just be disingenuous to say that someone with an ability like Nobara's that can also directly attack the soul and from a great range given the opportunity would not be helpful. Any attack she lands with the straw doll technique is not only going to make Sukuna weaker than he already is, but it'll just allow people to get even more hits in by distracting him. As for Todo, we all just run the headcanon that if he somehow returns, he's gonna have Boogie Woogie. Jujutsu Kaisen makes a lot of things happen with his very vague writing, so I think one way or another, Gege can make it happen. So I'm gonna run with this scenario. So obviously, he has zero chance alone like with all other characters, but Jujutsu Kaisen values teamwork heavily, and usually people who have no business hanging with a certain opponent have their chances of winning skyrocketed the moment they get an ally. That's just how it is in this series. And fighting Sukuna right now, I think the both of them can contribute something in a situation where we can use anything we can get. Sukuna needs to be put down as quick as possible. However, this is just me talking about how I think they would be useful if they came back during this arc. I personally believe that if they are to ever come back, they will come back after this arc. But hey, I just want to point out that I am open to them coming back now. Now with the reasons for their return, let's address the other side. Reasons why they won't or should not return. So the first and biggest reason in my opinion these characters not returning would make sense is that it fits the theme of the endless relay that Jujutsu sorcerers as a whole have to endure. And ironically, Todo had a huge speech about this before entering the fight against Mahito. As long as we live, our friends who have passed away will not truly have been defeated. It's not about sins or punishment. The moment we become Jujutsu sorcerers, our lives cannot be limited to such misfortunes. Looking for meaning or logic in death can at times defile the memories of those we've lost. Even so, what have you been entrusted with? You don't need to answer right now. However, until you find your answer, never stop moving. For those of us who live as sorcerers, that is the punishment we must endure. This is served as a response to Yuji's belief that both Nanami and Nobara have passed away, and I believe it is to remind the viewers that characters will not stay forever, but their efforts and willpower will metaphorically be carried on by those that remain. Nobara and Todo's roles could have been to truly give Yuji the golden opportunity to defeat Mahito once and for all, and those sacrifices ended up doing two massive things for the sake of protecting the world as a whole. 1. Keep Yuji Itadori alive, and 2. Rid the world of Mahito. Yuji staying alive is the only reason why we have a chance against Sukuna later on in the story, and had Mahito gotten the chance to grow as a curse post Shibuya, I don't think there's many who would have been able to put him down. Stopping him there and then prevented many future deaths. So their lives and efforts have provided way more to the world than it may seem. Todo's speech could signify that they were truly done there as sorcerers and have served their role in the never-ending marathon that is Jujutsu sorcery. And there is another big point I want to bring up. Shoko being unable to heal either one and bring them into a state where they can at least fight is a true possibility. To explain, in chapter 258, Shoko says that there are two reasons that reverse curse technique users cannot heal others. One is just how they use their reverse curse technique, and 2 is the body of the target refusing the treatment. She explains that there are cases where the cursed energy of the one being healed will reject the process, and other times where the cursed energy of the one being healed does not respond. This could be the case for either one of them, and the fact that they got slammed with idol transfiguration at the end of their battles only backs this up. The final kind of loose point I want to bring up is the fact that they hit the Black Flash as side characters. Now from a meta standpoint, and this is my opinion, I believe this is a death sentence. Because they'll begin to grow extremely fast as sorcerers, maybe too fast for the plot. As of the recent chapters, I've come to believe that hitting a Black Flash has way more effects on your growth than I initially believed, as Yuji has been skyrocketing in strength after chaining them on Sukuna. And not only this, Yuji had been strangely held back from any all-out serious life or death fights after chaining against Mahito in the final encounter, all the way up until this battle with Sukuna 100 chapters later. Quick editor's note, I just was not thinking about the first fight of Yuji versus Sukuna when I had wrote this script and recorded this. However, even that reinforces my point because Yuji did go all out here, and this is the first time he activated Cleave, or us getting a hint that he probably had Cleave. We still don't know the exact detail with that, but it was definitely a hint towards Cleave. Higuruma was a battle, yeah, but come on, that was more of a gimmick fight that was decided only by Higuruma giving up. Also, Yuji had no curse energy there anyway. It's a very loose guess, but maybe them hitting black flashes would have made them begin to grow in strength too much to a point where the heroes would have way too many powerful sorcerers to fight Sukuna and Kenjaku? I don't know. I just always found it to be a standout detail that Gege removed all Black Flash users one way or another except Yuji from the story by the end of Shibuya. You could say that Yuta was still around, but at the time Gege wrote the Shibuya incident, Yuta had not been said or confirmed to have connected to Black Flash ever, as that was confirmed around the time that Megami started fighting Reggie in the manga. Correlation does not mean causation though, but again, Gege from what I see, hid the Black Flash in every way he could by keeping Yuji out of serious fights and getting rid of every other character who used it before. However, on the other side, you can also just say, oh, this could also mean that they could come back since Gojo was removed from the story in Shibuya 2 and came back. To that, I'd say fair, but I think Gege just wanted to shave off all the Black Flash users from the story. And I did also want to point this out because I don't think I'd ever get any other video to point this out. This is the best video for me to ever just point out this detail that I noticed, so yeah. To conclude, that wraps up all of what I think about these two characters returning, and while at first I thought they would never come back, I'm talking like a 0% chance, but nowadays, after thinking about the series for a bit more, I'm open to it, especially Todo's return. I genuinely don't know how more people think Gojo's gonna return than Todo, but whatever. I thought Megami was also gone forever until last week, so hey man, for someone like me, that's a big deal. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this yap session, discussion video, whatever you want to call it, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.